All right, so today we're going to be taking a look at more topping deck lists that are non-fire. I mean, spoiler alert, there is one Salamangreat list in there, but no wanted, snake eyes, nothing like that. People are topping with non-fire deck lists, and I'm here to showcase them to you. So I'm super excited to get into today's video. But before we get started, I just want to quickly remind you that my SP giveaway is going for one more day. So you have one more day to enter, and then I will be choosing a winner. So yes, good luck with that. And of course, if you like this video, make sure to give it a like and sub and ding the bell as well while you're at it. So yes, the first deck list we're going to be taking a look at is going to be Voiceless Voice. I think this deck is kind of cool. Actually, this sounded like I don't really like it. I do think it's cool. It's just that I feel like it's a little fragile sometimes. Sometimes one interrupt can really hinder them. However, a lot of times it just happens that they completely snowball out of control, and there's no way for you to do anything to them realistically, because they will put up Law together with a negate, Sauravis to negate a summon, bounce itself to hand to prevent targeting, or rather negate an effect that would target. And of course, there's also the barrier, which makes everything be unable to be targeted. There's only rituals you can attack, which is like 4100 attack. So you're not getting over that realistically. And this deck is also pairing things together with Brand Diffusion. So, there is the fact that sometimes you get disrupted on Diviner and you're just gonna have to pass. But on the other hand, this deck is still really nice. It's also able to play cards like Summon Limit and stuff like that, which just works so well against a lot of decks in the meta. And you have enough space to play quite a bit of non-engine as well. So in my opinion, this is a deck to look out for, even though it can be fragile sometimes. So that's my little take on Voiceless Voice. But let's check out the actual deck list. All of the ratios are very standard. I think you have to play pretty much just like we see over here: 3 Law, 3 Saphira, 2 of the Skull, like Ritual, and then also the 2 to 3 Sauravis, however many you like. I think 3 is like perfect, pretty much. The Dragon Sage, 3 Hierarchia, and 3 Diviner. And also the 3 Pre-Prep, and the Barrier, Prayers, and the Trap card. Those are your basic ratios. And then this person obviously decided to include Brand Diffusion as well, to go for Albion and also Mirror Jade. There's Lebellion over here as well. This extra deck doesn't need anything in it, if we're being completely honest. All you need is Dynamondo, and then Anima into SP is amazing because of Law being a level 1, as well as Linkuriboh. And Herald of Arclight, of course, is mandatory pretty much. Entis as well. But other than that, you have enough space to really dedicate to either some utility guards, or you can include Brand Diffusion, which I actually really like in here. I think it's nice because it's gonna bait out Ash 100%, so it's a little easier to play through some other interruptions. So yeah, I don't know. I actually like this deck list. I have not personally tested Voiceless with branded. I've only played against non-branded Voiceless a bunch. So yeah, I like this deck list, honestly. And as for the side deck, we talked about Summon Limit already. Evenly Matched is gaining quite a lot of popularity. Actually, I see it in many different deck lists. Usually the ones that are running Thrust. But still, it is really nice. And Soul Release is just really important right now, as well as Cosmic Cyclone. And the rest of non-engine in the main deck are pretty much hand traps that you kind of have to run. And I guess the only out of the ordinary thing would be that there is no draw here, which draw is really nice against this deck, actually. But other than that, I guess they just decided to go for a different approach. It's not mandatory to play draw, because a lot of times fire decks will just be able to play through it fairly well, especially if it's the Snake Eyes Pure variant. So yeah, I actually kind of understand why they decided to do this. Okay, for this next deck list, we won't spend too much time on it, at least not as much as we spend on Voiceless, because it's just Flunder, very basic, but I still wanted to showcase it just to say that you can do well with a cheap deck, because Flunder is extremely accessible. It's like $50 for the entire core pretty much, and most of what you need in the extra deck. So I didn't wanna showcase this. This person decided to play 3 Prosperity, which you can do if you don't really want to invest into that, you can also play Extravagance. They also played one Extravagance, so it is possible. You just kind of have to like play multiples in the extra deck so you don't lose to the RNG of Extravagance as much, even though Flunder doesn't need the extra deck that desperately. I tried to figure out why Entis is here with Omega as well, which I assume is just if you go up against anything Dogmatica where Maximus is going to make it so you send to the graveyard. This is literally the only, I guess, thing I could come up with. I don't know if there's any other reason, because they're not running Ultimate Slayer, nothing like that. So I don't know. But basically, yeah, Flunder can play Thrust because there's a bunch of good targets that you just utilize in this deck, which would be Harpy's Feather Storm first and foremost. But as for like going second cards, obviously they decided to go for normal spells and traps. So Harpy's Change of Heart, Lightning Storm, Evenly. I like this, you know, some mandatory hand traps that you have to run right now in the side deck. One additional M-Pen, which is actually kind of cool. Like I've seen a lot of lists with 3 M-Pen actually, like just over the months that Flunder has been seeing play. So you can either play 2 or 3. There's also obviously Shifter in the main deck. The rest of the ratios are fairly standard. And there is the one Jack in the Hand, which, I don't know, this card is fine. You don't have to run it, but it's cool. The only thing I'm missing here is the Swallow's Cowrie, which I think is a really good card actually. So I would personally play it in the Flunder list, but yeah, you know, to each their own. So let's move on. We did say non-fire, but obviously there's one Salamangreat list over here, although we're not really counting this as like a huge fire threat. But maybe we should, you know, top 8 at a regional is a very nice result for Salamangreat actually. So yes, let's check this out. So 3 Gazelle with 3 Circle, obviously, which is really nice. 3 Buffalo and Spinny, 1 Foxy, Jaguar, Falco, Salamangreat of Fire. I think all of the ratios here are fairly standard actually. I like 2 Fenrir, you're not bricking on it, and it's just here to search the other copy, which is nice. Parallel Seed, just really important for this deck, and then a lot of space for non-engine. So yeah, pretty much I wanted to focus on this card, which would be Salamangreat Charge. It's actually not bad. Like, I think it's fair to play 1 copy. Not amazing, but kind of nice. You basically get to revive a monster. It does lose to a Ghost Bell because you would have to return cards to the from the graveyard to the deck and also special summon. And if one of the targets gets removed somehow, you also don't get to special because it's an if you do effect. But other than that, you know, I think it's a fairly decent card. You probably can also utilize the second effect, not as much though. But yeah, I guess with Heat Leo, you know. Other than that, and obviously the field spell, other than that, you know, Salamangreat has always been this deck that just plays a lot of non-engine, which we see over here, you know, just a bunch of hand traps. Also Delta in the side deck. No like power spells, nothing like that. It's just pretty much a whole bunch of 2-off hand traps, which is cool actually, because a lot of times in Salamangreat you just struggle when you draw multiples of hand traps. You want to be able to build your board, which is not insane, but then back that up with a lot of hand traps that preferably are different ones. So yeah, I like this. 2 Baylings, 2 Sunlight Wolf, obviously Peetlia and the Raging Phoenix, Princess, which is really important, SP Hita. Yeah, I think this is a very standard extra deck, and obviously Link Spider is here because a lot of times you will end on a Nibiru token and it's not gonna be because you would want to, but it just happens. So then might as well play the Link Spider as well. I like Baguska in the side deck. I think Baguska is just really busted against a lot of decks. They kind of struggle to out it. Now, next up we have Branded, just the basic Gimmick Puppet Branded. I still, you know, claim that Branded is a really good choice right now to play. Just such a solid deck, and it just ends on so many different interruptions. You're not realistically going through all of that. You know, Mirror Jade can literally be activated like 3 times if you put it on the field again with Oddly Bitum, and revive it with Quem or something like that. Like, it's just stupid. It's really, really good. So I guess the engine is very standard, but as for crossout and the targets, I guess we can take a look at that. We have 1 Veiler, a Nibiru, obviously Super Polymerization is here, not in connection with crossout because you wouldn't be able to chain it, but it's here for non-engine. And then there's also Ash and Imperm to just be utilized and also for cross-out targets. And yeah, I like Thrust in Branded. Amazing when you get to like have access to Branded Fusion and also Fusion Duplication, which is nice in the side deck. I never really liked it in the main deck that much. I don't know, unless you're main decking Thrust as well, then it makes sense. But if you're side decking it, then 100% you're side decking Fusion Duplication as well. So yeah, you know, other than that, like Evenly, Soul Release, all of that can be played at 2 because you have Thrust. So I like this, you know. Shifter is kind of nice, kind of dangerous, you know, in the side deck. Obviously you can play under it, but it's not going to be as insane. It's just one of those situations where if you can play under Shifter better than your opponent, then you're fine. And then next up we have Kashtira. I wanted to cover this list mainly because of Magical Spring. It's literally like we were talking with my husband, we realized that there's a lot of draws to be had from Magical Spring against some of the top decks in the meta right now. So I actually really like this addition. You get to draw into a lot of your important going second cards. And obviously you also have like some going first cards like Summon Limit and also Judgment. Summon Limit is just so insane right now in Voiceless as well as Kashtira, which obviously, like we talked about before, are able to hang with the best decks. And as for the main deck, very standard Kashtira ratios, 1 Kashtira Ogre, and then the mandatory, honorary Kashtira monster Shifter, and also other hand traps. Like Kashtira still plays Moonlit Chill, which is fine because you have a Baron de Fleurs, so you can access it a little easier with those level 3 tuners. And as for non-engine, draw like other non-engine, and also 2 talents, which is nice. I always liked 2 talents, and like my preferred ratio has always been 2 talents, 1 called by, and then an additional talent in the side deck maybe. But yeah, I like this. There's also the BLS link, and you have the Heat Soul, like entire Heat Soul package, which I just think is so good in Kashtira. I really like this innovation. Okay, next up we have Unchained, which in my honest opinion, I do not know how Unchained is able to do well. It's like, it's not a bad deck at all. However, it just seems completely power crept and so awkward with only 1 Shavara. But if you pilot it well, I think you should be fine. So obviously this person proved it. There's again Delta in the side deck, which is so amazing. And yeah, as for the main deck, let's check out if there is the DDD. There is. So DDD package is here. Some people just don't play it to be able to play more non-engine and compete with the best decks in that way. But you can do whatever you want. And other than that, very basic 3 and 2 ratios of the trap cards, 1 Shayama only, which is fine. You could play 2, but you don't really want to draw it, so it makes sense. Yeah, other than that, just a very straightforward Unchained list. There is the Wailing of the Unchained Souls, if I'm not mistaken, that's what the card is called. You can play it. You don't need to. Again, just more ways of getting to your engine. Prosperity is really important here. And as for the extra deck, obviously you need 3 Yama and then 2 of the other soul links. SP, Unicorn, Muckracker. Yeah, everything is very, very standard. And as for the, like some, I guess, interesting things in the side deck would be a cross out with more targets actually, because the Moonlit Chill is just 1 over here, which I guess has to do with some side ratios, but can be useful with crossout as well if you expect like Kashtira, I guess. Or, you know, you just include it again because of side decking patterns. 3 talents, 2, what's it called? Dark Ruler, no more. I don't know why I just glitched with the name of this card, but 2 Dark Ruler, no more. And yeah, let's move on to the next deck. This is actually a winning deck list of Branded Chimera, which is interesting because I feel like a lot of us just kind of wrote this deck off, kind of didn't really respect it as much anymore. It just doesn't seem that incredible. Like most of the time people will just kind of pass on one hand trap, from my experience at least. And I also think the Horus version might actually be superior because you just do so much with the Horus cards. You put so much pressure on the board. And yeah, you don't really care about some of the discards for Imseti. But of course, to each their own, this is definitely a more accessible version. So let's check out this one. As for the Chimera, illusionist monster ratios. They are very, very standard. There's one light Hexiod fusion, Tau, I don't know what the full name is, but the Tau illusionist. And you, of course, include in this version the Edge Imp as well as the Frightfur patchwork. So there's that. There is only 2 cross out, which I don't really like, if I'm being honest. Like, if you want a card like this, which is going to help you play through more, I would assume you want 3 copies of it, even if you're going over 40 or if you have to cut one of the cards down. But I guess, you have called by as well. But why wouldn't you have 3 cross out, 1 called by? I don't know. Yeah, because it's branded, obviously there has to be 2 Fallen of Albas. There's also polymerization, which is great. Yeah, other than that, very standard branded Chimera list. And yeah, as for the side deck, I really like Shaddoll Fusion. A lot of players started teching this because Ariel is just so good. It is literally just dealing with your opponent's graveyard with the help of this one card, which, shouldn't be ashed, of course, but if it goes through, you're gonna be able to deal with a lot of your opponent's interruptions, among which are obviously Princess, possibly Garunix and stuff like that. So I think Shaddoll Fusion is amazing, actually. Let's move on to the next deck. We have Dragon Link. I think this is like 46 cards or something like that. I like the list. I actually really like it. Like, Bestios are not gonna be used as non-engine as much. However, they will almost always be live because you have the Abilistar, Link, Kuribo, random decks like Unchained, Tearlaments, stuff like that. Obviously, Voiceless Voice as well. And yeah, just dragons are so powerful when they go off, when they put up their board, even if it's like 2 interruptions, they still have hand traps. They have actually good follow-up if they play that way. They can easily OTK you and just... such a solid deck. I don't know. I just like dragons. I like dragons, seeing dragons do well. As for the ratios, no Baldrake, which is actually not that amazing, so that makes sense. Rockets are 2 Tracer, 1 Absorouter, and I mean, it's not a rocket, but honorary rocket. And obviously the 1 Recharger. I could see, another rocket in here. You can play pretty much whatever you want. There's Silver Rocket, and obviously the other one as well, but I guess to each their own. I do like an additional rocket. And no Red Eyes, like the other Red Eyes with Driver and Gamma. I've seen this package as well, but you don't have to include it if you don't want to. A lot of hand traps, which you can play in this deck. And everything else is very standard. No Branded Beast, which I'm also a fan of. I just don't like Branded Beast in here. I don't think it's that amazing. And as for the side deck, there's a mandatory time card, obviously. And anti-spell. Only 2 Soul Release. I guess that's fine. You could bump it up to 3 if you really want to see it. And as for the extra deck, I guess the only thing in here would be that there's no Hieratic Xyz, which I would play because there's so many Bestios that you're running. And you can cut like Chaos Angel or Zeus potentially, possibly Chaos Angel, which is not that insane, I guess, compared to what Hieratic can do for you in some hands. But again, like I always say, to each their own. You can do whatever you want. And then next up we have Earthbound Horus, which, it's not Earthbound Rurik. So this is interesting. Just Earthbound Horus Danger. I don't really know what to think about this deck, but I do like it. Like, there's the Harmonic Synchro Fusion, which is really good when it goes through, but like, I don't know, like... an interesting deck. I haven't really seen this version before, so yeah, you have Bestios, you have Dangers. Like, I totally understand because, like, getting rid of some of the Horus cards to the graveyard is fine, and I don't know. This deck kind of confuses me, if I'm being completely honest with you, but I do like it. So, yes. Okay. Crimson Gaia with Resonator. So it's like Resonator, Horus, Bestio, pretty much. Yes, that's how we should put it. So it's Resonator, Horus, Bestio, which was a deck before. And then, there's Earthbound cards, because why not? Earthbound Fusion is actually really good. You're able to access all of these fusions here, and then you have Super Polymerization for other fusions to break through your opponent's boards. There's Dragoon, which is cool. And then as for Synchros, You have Baron, the Moonlight Dragon, Berserker of the Tenye, and Dawn Jackster, which is also really cool. There's the level 9 Synchro, Muddy Mud Dragon, also Shen Shen. So yeah, okay, I understand. Like, this is actually really cool. Like, Shen Shen is kind of tough to deal with, if we're being completely honest. And then pair this with all of the hand traps and like accessing super polymerization to literally prevent your opponent from playing. I don't know. I actually kind of like this. I would have to really test this to be able to tell you more about what I think about it. But yeah, I really wanted to just showcase this deck list to you and actually ask you for your thoughts as well. Have you tested this deck? Like, what do you know about it? I would love to hear more. I need to do more research 100% when it comes to this deck. But yeah, I like Phantasme in the side deck 100%. Definitely really nice to draw into your good cards. Okay, and as for the last deck, here we have just Tier Limits Horus, and I think it's really solid. I think Tier is still able to compete. I don't see it a whole lot, maybe just because people are switching to other decks, but I think it's good because it has a really strong engine which is able to hang with the fire decks, in my opinion. Not to mention the shufflers are just so busted. So obviously we see Kildo and Mudora, and they decided to go for the Malicious package, which is nice. Just Horus cards are so good. Horus cards are so amazing. There's also Fenrir, which is a mandatory addition to the Tier Limits deck, 100%. Trivi Karma. And then as for the fusions, let's check this out. So no King of the Swamp, nothing like that. Not going into Rule Kalos. There's super polymerization together with the targets, which are obviously accessible through tier effects as well. Kaleidoheart, Stapelia, the package with Toad, which is nice. Obviously Beatrice. Yeah, I think it's a very standard deck, actually. Nothing out of the ordinary. I guess the crime in the side deck, you can play it, you don't have to. I think it's still fine for going first. Yeah, I don't know. I like this deck. I think it's looking really clean. I love Shayama in this deck as well. Yep, I have to say I'm a fan. So yeah, I think this is the last deck. Yes, this was the last deck for today's video. So if you enjoyed, please let me know. And if you're playing a non-fire deck, I would love to hear this in the comments down below. And also, please let me know what's up with the Earthbound pile deck. I don't even know what to call it. I would love to know more about this as well. And yeah, like I said, give the video a like, make sure you are subbed and ding the bell so you are notified when I post, and I'll catch you in the next one.